The worst horror movie I ever saw was fucking great.
Hello and welcome to This May Hurt a Bit. My name is James Strayer and this is
John C. Myers.
And we are a horror franchise podcast discussing each film in a popular and likely not so popular franchise. And today we are talking about Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, released in 1985. So as I keep asking you, John, as we start off each episode, leaving Part 4? Were you excited for Part 5?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I liked how Part 4 ended with the possibility that Tommy's not all right. Mm-hmm. Little Tommy Jarvis. But for ostensibly having finally killed off Jason, that was the whole thing of it. Again, we're left in this, well, how are they going to do this now?
What are they going to do? Yeah. And, you know, I forgot to mention these past couple episodes. I guess it doesn't really matter at this point, but I always like to call it out early. This will be pretty spoilery. Mm-hmm. And I guess that kind of matters a little bit more for this film.
Yeah.
In some ways. But yeah, God, how to even start talking about this.
I will say that we've achieved nominative determinism. It does hurt a bit. This one is the first one that it did hurt a bit.
I was going to mention that. I forgot that as we started recording. Yeah, this one hurt a bit. Definitely.
When I first watched 4, I thought it was a little cruel and whatever. And then when I watched it again, I kind of got more out of it. This time, just no. Just absolutely not.
Yeah,
this didn't do it for me.
This is a tough one. And I know that, you know, this is pretty evenly divided in the Friday the 13th fandom. And there's a lot of people that really love this one. But again, I have a really hard time. And I love when people love things. Don't get me wrong. Love what you love. In this day of internet hyperbole, the people who feel the need to go to bat for Friday the 13th Part 5, I just feel like are... You know, they just want to be a part of the club that defends it. Right. But maybe I'm being cruel. I don't know. But it's hard to parse that kind of thing these days.
It's hard. And I've seen different arguments about it, mirroring the first movie, this, that, and the other, that don't really hold up for me simply because I have seen plenty of slasher movies that don't make sense, that exist primarily as a vehicle for slashing because that's sort of what they do. But if this had like dream logic or like any sort of style or panache to it, if it was Italian, I would have given it something. It's very like an algorithm writes a slasher movie a bit. And certainly that's from the behind the scenes stuff. That's the sense that you get, that they were like, we need a kill to happen every like 9 or so pages.
Yep.
Rather than stay with a core group of people, you just keep getting introduced to new characters that die immediately.
That was a big thing that I noticed with this one. Definitely. There were so many just like disparate thoughts that I had, not only watching this and also just pulling things that I read about it that I'm like, I don't know how I can thread the needle with all of this stuff, but like, it's so fascinating too.
Yeah.
Like I really enjoyed thinking about it and hopefully talking about it. Like I did not enjoy it watching it as a film at all. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, a couple of moments, of course, but
yeah. Well, you can see a lot of wasted potential as well, because there's some threads in there that are very interesting and very cool, particularly for this is the 5th film in the series.
Yep.
Everyone's done with it for the most part. Like Mancuso, he's still around because it's making money. It's still making money. And as much as the studio's kind of like, you know, it's the what do they call it? The redheaded stepchild or whatever. It's still turning a profit, so they like that. But he's like, I don't want to be just associated with this, so I'm going to step back a little bit. I'll still take the money, of course.
But like any good executive producer would.
Right. And so we have Kit Trosser coming back, Martin Kit Trosser, who was the script supervisor on the first one and involved with the other ones. And then the powers that be behind the scenes, Phil Scuderi and the Boston investors. Although I think at this point, it's just 2 of them.
Right.
Now, but they're the ones we talked last episode. Joe Zito was on the phone with Phil Scuderi getting script notes that he would then give to the writer. Then the writer would write them up. This time, Phil Scuderi hired the director and writer, Lil Danny Steinman.
Danny Steinman, man. So a lot of the reputation definitely can be put at the feet of Danny Steinman for good or for ill. Again, if you like it, and I get some of the like some people just love this one because it's just the sleaze is just dialed way up.
Oh man, it is sleazy,
and it's I wrestle with this, and maybe it's an age thing because I always want sleazy movies to exist as an idea, if nothing else. And some sleazy movies I really enjoy watching, and some of them they just hit me in the wrong the wrong amount of sleaze or something like that. I'm still wrestling with this idea, and maybe I'll discover that at the end of this podcast.
Maybe, yeah, it'll be an emotional journey.
Exactly.
Join us.
Yes. But yeah, Danny Steinman was the director of Savage Streets, starring Linda Blair, and a porn film called High Rise in the early 70s. And they thought that he was the right man for the job. And have you seen Savage Streets?
I have seen neither Savage Streets, The Unseen, or High Rise.
Or High Rise, yeah. I've seen Savage Streets, and man, some of the dialogue in that can be definitely attributed to Friday the 13th. Like people screaming at each other, insults, swearing that makes no sense.
Crap my ass.
Fair enough. Sean Cunningham himself got started doing adult films, and there's a lot of crossover in horror, particularly in that time, and certainly in the exploitation films. But there is such a porno sensibility to this of just get him in the seats and show him this. Like, it doesn't matter what the cable guy is there to do.
Right.
It does, no one's going to walk away thinking about that. And I think that's some of the sleaziness of this, is that it's very on its face about, like, we're not even really trying to deliver you any kind of story here. And so it's just, I don't know if this would bother me as much if we hadn't come off of the 4 previous ones. And not that those are like high art. Yeah. But you can it makes you want to defend Jace a little bit. Be like, he's better than this.
Right. Well, it does. It reminds me of an Ebert review of this.
Art all through the years, and we could talk about all of these sequels probably in this term, art all through the years has dealt with the violent and with the vulgar and with the profane as part of human experience. As part of it. What is unique about this film is that they have taken out all the other parts of human experience and left only this in, so it becomes a very dismaying and very depressing experience to sit through.
But again, like, I'm not trying to like clutch my pearls too much, because of course this is like partially why we come see it. Yeah. But like, I'm kind of struggling with where I fall with this as far as why I like what I like. And then when I see something like this, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah. I was reminded this week tangentially of this old SNL skit during the Anita Hill hearings, where it's all the congressmen doing the interviewing basically just keep talking to Clarence Thomas about pornos or like different ways to be sleazy to a girl and whether or not that works. And there's a bit where Dana Carvey's character, I think he's playing Strom Thurmond, is like,
women like something with more stories and costumes that'll transport them to another place in time. That's right. Their inhibitions are often loosened by escape when they are allowed to fantasize in another era. Women don't like close-ups or oversized genitalia. That's just never gonna turn them on.
And that's sort of my thing. It's like, I don't want to just watch stab it in the face.
Right.
Put something around it. Put some fondant on it or something. Like, it's like if your favorite movie is the train pulling into the station that the Lumiere brothers did because it delivers what it says, then this might be the movie for you. But I don't know. I like a little bit more.
This is the Lumiere brothers of Friday the 13th. I mean, one of the actors did say that he described this as Fellini meets hardcore. And I was like, can you back up the Fellini part for me just a little bit? Like, I'll listen to your argument, you know? But anyway, yeah, like, so, but I was reading about Danny Steinman just like today, just thinking about this, but in a lot of ways, he's such a tragic guy because this was the last film that he made. And he had about 4 or 5 films after this just fall apart, as happens in this industry. He was flown all over the world to like do development on other films that never went forward. I think he was paid for the work that he did, but then when films drop out, like, it's not just that you don't get to make your movie, but if you're a working director, you're unemployed for the next stretch, you know, especially at this level. And then he got in a terrible bicycle accident. He attempted suicide in a hotel, which is just tragic because of the pain that he was in. He was saved by the hotel staff, and he finally got on his feet with the help of another family member a little bit afterwards. And he spent his final years just being embraced by going to horror conventions and speaking on them. And I hope they paid him a little coin to do that, just to make a living, you know. But there again, it is one of those things that I love in stories like this, where people, especially late in their life, they find horror conventions and horror fans, and they're just like, oh, you'll take care of me a little bit. But he had a rough go of things, and I'm not going to defend him anymore through the rest of this conversation
Man, there
because
goes all my notes making fun of this guy.
Because he sounded like a real pill to work with.
Yeah.
But like at the same time, I don't want anybody to go through that kind of ladder life.
No, that
trouble.
That sucks.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's just interesting when I looked up his IMDb, I was just like, okay, so the last film, like what else did he do after this? Oh, last film, which makes me immediately go to, and I'm just always fascinated by these people who, again, like we talked about in the first of the Zero episode, these people aren't rich people. That like when you make movies like this, like you have to have a job afterwards. Yeah. And I was like, what did he do for a living? Like, and I still don't really know.
Yeah.
So
that kind of stuff's fascinating because you definitely have people that are actors. You have that actress from Friday the 13th Part 3 that went on to become a newscaster and then involved in the OJ trial.
Yes.
There's a wide variety of things, but yeah, a lot of times people just keep working, and whether it's still for the motion pictures or they go back. And in fact, Debbie Sue Voorhees that is in this, was a teacher and lost her job like years later. Was a teacher and like lost her job because of this movie, because of the nudity in this film.
Some kids found the stills of the nudity that she performed and texted it around, and it's just like that's the world that we live in today, which is terrible. Yeah. But yeah, who else on here? Just before we get into the bit by bit stuff, I mean, I love it when Dick Warlock shows up. Yeah, but evidently he is a stunt coordinator for this, and the man behind the mask for Michael Myers on at least part 2 of Halloween, I believe. But he was a stunt coordinator, and he's the person who hired the Jason stuntman for this one. Yeah,
Tom Morga was the Jason. And he's, or the Jason-ish. And he did a great job. I mean, he was essentially playing Jason. Right. And I liked hearing about Tom Morga and Dick Warlock's behind the scenes antics. It's so weird to be a stuntman. And Tom Morga's like, oh, that bit where I get hit with a backhoe or whatever, and it flings me across. That was my favorite thing to shoot. It's like
he was excited about it.
Yeah, but it's great.
The one note trivia before we get into something meatier, like I also just love that Sherilyn Fenn was supposed to be in this.
Oh, no kidding.
And the Twin Peaks lover in me was just like, especially once we get to the scene later where her death scene would have been, I can do without Sherilyn Fenn being in this.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Protect Audrey Horne.
She was supposed to be Violet, the punk girl. Yeah. Yes. But when they started casting this film, and I'm still fascinated in this, and I mean, I read plenty of junk trivia about the film industry, but like this was billed as a film called Repetition. And so when you went into audition for this film, it was called Repetition. It was not Jason 5 or Friday the 13th 5 or whatever. The lead ended up volunteering at a mental institution for months. So that he could get into character. He shows up on day 1, finds out it's a Friday the 13th sequel. Yeah. Now, I don't know how is this legal on some level? Like, where you sign a contract to be, like, there must be some sort of stipulation of, like, you read the script and then you sign on. Or back in those days, it could be just like, he signed the contract to be in this movie, and he wants to get paid his, like, probably $15,000 to be in it or something like that.
Well, there's also a fair amount of like, no one asked you to do that.
That's true. That's true.
Respecting the craft and all that. But if that's what you feel like you need to do, that's awesome. Good for. I don't know how to act, but yeah, that's got to be very deflating. Much of the same way, like I couldn't help but think about what's his name, Miguel Nunez, that's a demon.
Oh my gosh!
Where it's just like, okay, so here's your costume. Oh man, it's all this leather and like these rings and stuff. I'm like a cool dude. Well, no, you're just gonna shit a lot. Like you just have to shit. Oh, yeah. Do I fight Jason? No, he stabs you while you're on the toilet. Okay,
while you're in the toilet, yeah, and just show up for probably 3 nights, maybe. If you're lucky.
We've got enchiladas.
Some damn enchiladas.
Right. And when I looked up Repetition, I was just like, I wonder if there's anything to this, really. But evidently, they based it on the David Bowie song from Lodger, which I find great. And then part 6 was, when it was in development, was called Aladdin Sane. And part 8 was called Ashes to Ashes. So I never thought to put one of my favorites, David Bowie, with Friday the 13th.
Man.
But yeah.
Also, I mean, like, that's wild, but it's also a little insulting to Lou Reed. I mean, he came down and he played music for the actress in the first one, and you just drop him. That's cool.
Right. They could have.
Well, Metal Machine music after that. No thanks.
But good grief. So I don't know how we like really dig into this without just spoiling it up top. Really?
I mean, because the movie certainly didn't care. So.
The movie does not care. Okay, I'll give you the honors.
It's not Jason, and it's
right.
It's not even Tommy. They make it seem like they think they make it seem like maybe it's Tommy. It's some guy.
Yeah.
It is literally some guy. It is some guy they have to make up a motivation for on the fly at the end. Not even in a like the Pamela Voorhees stuff. Like contextualize everything and made it made sense. This doesn't at all. Mm-hmm. They had to have a line of dialogue of him going, "Oh, are you talking to me?" Just to give him a little bit more screen presence. Otherwise, you would have forgotten he was even in the movie.
Right?
It's ridiculous. I'm always kind of fascinated, and I don't always want the answer, but I always like the idea of, well, then what happens? Like I like movies where like it's like a horror movie, and yeah, it's over, but the main character is just destroyed. Like the end of part 3. When she's being carted away, you're like, well, what's her life going to be like now? And we've never revisited that final girl. So I like the idea, particularly because 4 ends with Tommy dead-eyed looking into the camera. This ruining Tommy's life. And yeah, he's been in and out of institutions and stuff. And this is his life now. And they just, nope. They don't spend a lot of time with that. I mean, like it's the crux of the movie, but by choosing to have Tommy be very inside, like very shut down and inside, like you cannot, it's very difficult to connect with him as a character. And then you just sideline him through most of it. So it's not even a real question of, is he doing this? You're just seeing people get murdered. And it's like, oh, I guess it's not Jason. Okay.
And on the heels of Tommy being so insular and quiet, I looked it up. And other than his screaming and yelling, he speaks 24 words in the film.
Oh, my gosh.
So he's a real Boba Fett, this guy.
Yeah.
So he's a real, just like, he's kind of a big nothing, really.
Mm-hmm. And no offense to the actor, they just gave him nothing to do.
Of course, they gave him nothing to do, and they asked Corey Feldman to be in it again, but he was off shooting Goonies with Steven Spielberg and Roger Zemeckis. So I also want to believe that I like this idea that they had this kind of amorphous idea that like the evil would just transfer to people around the camp, that area. That's kind of a half-baked idea, but it gets more into the like unexplainable that I kind of like in horror movies sometimes. But at the same time, it's not what Jason's about, you know. Looking
into this movie, I did see a bit of a spoiler for an upcoming one that kind of retcons this, makes sense with that kind of thing. But no, they didn't establish that at all. And I mentioned in previous episode the idea that there's something in the lake animating this hatred of people from Jason and Pamela or whatever. But this it doesn't make any sense. This is just out of left field. And it like,
is that your Bookhouse boys saying that this is just the evil the men do?
Yeah.
There's an evil in the woods.
Yeah,
yes.
Because I mean, if his actions made any sense at all, because the killer is a paramedic, shows up at the beginning for a non-Jason related killing, and that makes him go crazy and kill everyone else, even though the guy who does the killing, is fine. Like he goes to jail. Nothing happens to him. But it doesn't make a lick of sense.
Not at all. And before we dive deep into that, I think we just need to run over the tendons that tie these two films together. Is this ridiculous dream sequence at the beginning of the movie where Corey Feldman filmed in his own backyard on a Sunday during the Goonies shooting schedule, which, I mean, say what you will about how dumb that was to put together, but like, I don't know, he's shooting 6-day weeks on Goonies. They ask him to do something on a Sunday in the cold and the rain, and the poor kid's like, man, I got to work 13 days straight. Yeah. I know people do harder jobs than that. Right. I'm not just trying to, like, but that's still like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Especially for a 12-year-old or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I also just like the ingenuity of making that happen. Of like, well, how can we make this work?
Movie magic, baby.
Yeah, that weird movie problem solving, which, I mean, it sounds like this thing went through so many rewrites. And that was definitely one of it because he wasn't available. So they were like, all right, scrap this whole thing. Now it's just a dream sequence.
My favorite part about the dream sequence is that Jason is buried not only with his mask, but with a machete.
With a machete, yeah.
Yeah. So he got a Viking, well, not a Viking funeral because that implies burning, but like he is buried with his weapons, like any good D&D character.
Oh man, Jason failed his saving throws.
Right.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, but he's dug up by a couple of punks, and Tommy fears that he's coming after him, and he wakes up in the back of a van, which also implies, well, not just implies, but it is a big time jump.
Yeah.
Because the previous films have been like basically one horrible like 4-day weekend or something. Yeah, to that effect,
2 through 4 is just boom, 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 boom. Because there's a 5-year jump between 1 and 2, and then it's just days in a row, and then we leap forward 10 years to 1985.
Yeah. So I wonder what year this takes place in.
Now, according to the Friday the 13th.fandom.com wiki, they're saying it's 1989. Which,
I mean, I was half joking, but
because this came out in 1985. But it's odd to think about now when 2019 seems like 20 years ago. But I do like that the movie's like, no, we've gone by 10 years, and yes, it's the same. Everything is just the same. Don't worry about it. Because I feel like that happens in other movies, and it's like, yeah, that's fine. Like, it's,
Made in 1985, taking place in 1989. I always think of the RoboCop thing in the near future.
Yeah.
So it's the near future.
The day after tomorrow.
Kind of the same. Yeah. Anyway, so we see Tommy Jarvis waking up in the back of a truck, and the poor kid's being sent to a camp.
It's a halfway house.
Halfway house. There we go.
The Pinehurst halfway house.
It made me think of Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, Dream Warriors, the hospital for wayward teens type of deal. Not nearly as cool.
There's been accusations that this is lifted heavily. Once again, Phil Scuderi being a horror exploitation theater owner, basically, seeing a whole bunch of crap, that a lot of this is lifted from a 1973 splatter film called Don't Look in the Basement. That's AKA The Forgotten.
That's such a great name.
Yeah.
Gosh.
that has some of the things. And in fact, an axe wielding guy in that has a bit part in this. But I looked into it. Yeah, it involves an asylum type setting where the head doctor is like, hey, just let people do whatever, man. They'll get it out of their systems. And that's largely what the doctor here does. So,
which was also supposed to be kind of the plot of Part 3. The final girl going to the hospital. So now this halfway house is just brought to the woods, which makes more sense for a Jason movie.
Mm-hmm. Which is odd. Like just learn the timeline of this stuff. So this is 1985. A billion slasher movies have come out by this time.
True.
People are getting kind of tired of the same kind of stuff. Nightmare on Elm Street just came out the year before. I thought it was around a lot longer, but no, it was just a year before. So now you have this new element of slasher horror. That it's hard to go, people going back to the woods, they want to see something. And they went, all right, how about Jason terrorizes the mentally ill? Let's do that.
Gosh. Yeah, this is where I wish that I just had I could probably think of it in my brain, but like a list of slasher movies that have come out between 1981 and 1984. And it's probably a good 60 titles.
Yeah, there's so many. I mean, like this video was starting to really take all being stuff going directly to video. And yeah. So if you were real into that, there was stuff there. But
poor Tommy arrives at the place, and does he immediately beat somebody up? Am I remembering that correctly?
No. That's he sitting there quietly and sweating, which they're very good at that. Yeah. And he gets shown to his room by Pam, who's supposed to be the hero, and much like Trish in the last movie, kind of just shows up at the end and is like, guess what? This is our final girl.
Yeah.
There he's introduced to Reggie. Played by Shavar Ross, who's wonderful in this. Like I really like that kid, and in fact, seeing him in interviews later, I just want to hang out with that dude. He seems real cool.
Yeah, Reggie the Reckless.
In
this, he got an extra name.
You scared of spiders? You scared of rubber spiders? You scared of rubber spiders on strings? Man, you are one scared cat.
I just love that increasing specificity.
Yes,
and then. Yeah, Tommy turns around and scares him with a mask.
And he travels with?
He has. He's still allowed to make these awful masks. And it's like, basically, Tommy was in Arkham Asylum. Where it's like, well, I need my emotional support freeze ray. Let me have that. Like, yeah, sure. I'm sure that's healthy for you to just make these masks and wear them around and whatever.
We've got a mask oven for you to play with. The Tom Savini, like, Pennsylvania class is going on right over there.
Tom Savini comes once a week to help them stage fake murders. It's good. It's cathartic.
Again, not to CinemaSins it, but at the same time, it's also just funny that he's got a backpack and his only belongings are 4 hideous masks.
One underwear, of which, Tommy, you need that? No, masks.
One of which, as we find out at the very end, is a Jason mask. That he just kind of carries around with him. Yeah. But we're jumping ahead. Okay, so then we go outside in man, I'm already just thinking about these terrible people. And I just sighed. The past few episodes, I was excited to get into each of these scenes. And now I'm just like, oh gosh, it's starting to hurt a bit. Yeah. So the cops drop off a couple that are in the woods. And what would a couple be doing but be having sex in the woods? Of course. And then we get Ethel, and good grief.
I'm going to do the talking, you keep quiet.
Morning, Ethel. Hi, don't you look lovely today?
Poor shit. Now, Sheriff, you better hear me and hear me good. I want this loony bin closed down. You hear me, fella? Now, these kids ain't nothing but trouble. They don't respect others' property, and they're all crazy.
This is the type of character that this is just a personal taste thing, but like, I don't know why people think this is funny because I find it so irritating and grating, and I just don't enjoy watching it at all.
Danny Steinman watched an episode of Mama's Family and went, how can I make this worse? How can I make this like just tweak it slightly? But I will say for her large adult son, Junior, I think, so you know how in Star Trek, there's the mirror universe where like there's the bad versions of these people.
That always looks kind of fun and like cool.
Well, but what I think the bad version of Chris Pratt stole this guy away, and now we have this Chris Pratt because that guy is like, it was like, oh yeah, that was a Chris Pratt I remember liking, this big kind of galoot who's kind of dumb, and now instead of being this jock weirdo. Because, this guy, I mean, Junior's just an annoying character as well. I feel like, again, that they watched, they took the lessons of part 3. They went, oh, that couple at the beginning that just yelled at each other. What if that was every character? What if we just did that?
Everybody in this film, especially like this pair, the greaser pair later on, people just scream and swear at each other.
Yeah.
I love, what do they say in MST? Like playfully joshing or like, something like that. Like, of course, we all make fun of our friends or something like that a little bit here and there, of course. But these people just scream at each other all day. Yeah. And I just can't stand the idea of like hanging out with somebody like that.
Yeah. So just murder all you want, but just keep it down. Just keep the noise down.
As in, like, I mean, I know like other friends of ours in our movie group have made fun of me, like, oh, his line is people yelling in a movie, but it does honestly grate on me. She is also a true NIMBY, not in my backyard, with this place for wayward teens type of thing, which, we definitely experience a lot in Portland, Oregon right now.
Well, and that's
topical.
This movie was ahead of its time. And people angry at the mentally ill. But it is like, she just shows up to be this comic relief. I guess it's like I was saying earlier that like you have this group of people, and I was like, you're clearly wanting to follow a playbook, a guideline thing. If the producers and I'm assuming this is coming from Scuderi and them and not from Timothy Silver. Because like in interviews I saw with him, it didn't seem like he was demanding this. So I don't know. But anyway, that you're just telling this story again. That's kind of what they want. You have a group of people together and you just don't do anything with them. You go completely outwards to everyone else. I mean, in 3, you had the bikers show up and they were additional fodder or whatever. And the people getting. But just constantly, we're just shifting focus away from where everyone is to these new characters that we don't like, the Greaser Buddies or Ethel or whatever. Like they don't really serve a larger purpose other than, when Junior and Tommy kind of go at it a little bit. But you still don't really get the sense that Tommy is out of his mind violent about stuff. Like he reacts to being hassled, not shoving. Yeah. He's not just going around shoving flares into things.
This actually makes me rethink just a little bit. And this is, to me, kind of what this podcast is about, but like it makes me rethink a little bit of part 4, where I was a little bit annoyed at the interpersonal relationships going on, where everybody was just trying to pair off and there was this weird drama and stuff. And for whatever reason, it just didn't click with me. It didn't, maybe it was the writing or acting or something like that. But they were going for some sort of like drama with the characters. Whereas now we're just getting new character after new character that have no relationship to each other, like thrown at the screen. And so I'm not going to say I'm going to like retract how I felt, but like it is making me like recontextualize what they were doing in part 4 now that I'm seeing part 5.
Right. Well, and it, like I said, it makes me recontextualize all of it up to this point where you kind of appreciate that some thought and care was taken with this stuff. Yeah. That like as paper thin as some of these characters were, there was still an attempt to make them enjoyable to see on the screen. Like,
yes. And again, like I'm fully aware of the fact that you go to horror movies not expecting like full characters, and there's a certain like bar. Yeah. And sometimes if there's too much character, you get a little bit bored. There is a sweet spot in there. So I get the fact that we still want to be kind of like rooting for the excessive stuff. This one didn't quite work. I did like in this scene, the cop has heard of the Jarvis kid. So I do like that sense of world building where like out there for the last 5 years, people have known that Tommy Jarvis exists. I don't need any more than that. I don't need a Disney Plus 5-episode series on that. Oh, The Lost Years or whatever. I'd read a comic book, maybe.
Look, fan fiction writers, not smutty and no yelling, but other than that.
No yelling, yes. But I did like that touch of like, oh, the Jarvis kid is here. So it lets you know that like people know of Jason, people know of like what Tommy did to Jason, that kind of thing. And that's all you need. And I actually did appreciate that.
Well, it also cast that pall of doubt of like, well, okay, well, what's this kid been up to? Is he much of a name because something happened, you know?
Oof. So then we get to the guy with the chocolate bar. I didn't even catch his name.
Joey, I believe.
Joey, that was it. And it's hard to talk about because this is one of those like early 80s depictions of someone who probably could use a little help. And I don't want to talk too poorly about him, but at the same time, he's excruciating. And he's walking around with the chocolate bar, just kind of wanting attention. I don't know. Would you put him up on there with Francis from Texas Chainsaw? Like maybe, but
Francis was so much more hateful. Was the thing like Francis was just he was miserable, and he threw that out on everyone, and you felt that. This is like
that's true. Joey's a little bit more innocent.
This guy man, he means well.
What are you doing?
Doing laundry, Joey.
Can I help? I'm really very good at doing laundry. Matt never assigns it to me. I don't know why.
Look, Joey, we really have to get this thing finished, okay?
So I'm here to help you. You can count on me, Rob. You too, Vi. Want a chocolate bar?
Having spent a lot of my 20s late night at a bar, you'll get in conversations with people that are like, man, you are the most irritating person alive, but you mean well right now. Like you are drunk as hell, but like you totally mean well. And so I will cut you some slack. And so it's never really established why these different people are at the house, the halfway house. You certainly get the sense with Vic why he might be there in a couple minutes. But there's some emotional difficulties there with people, so they don't respond well to him. But he is irritating because he just wants to help, but he just got chocolate on his hands and he messes up the laundry.
So let's just cut to it. He just get axed in the back by Vic.
By Vic, who's just a tough guy with a studded armband. Who's just mad, and Joey just wants to help, and Vic's not having it, so stabs him in the back. And this is the first of what I felt like weren't necessarily stylistic choices as much as trying to cover shit up. So like when he hits him, the camera zooms in on his face, which has been done before in a Friday the 13th movie. That sort of like freeze frame or slow mo, and the camera sort of abnormally pans in, but. This happened so much in this because it seemed like they were trying to get around MPAA ratings. Like I know this went back and forth like 9 times.
9 times,
to get different cuts on. And I don't think this was particularly anything like super gruesome other than the moral implications. So like they might not have been bloody, but you're watching a mentally ill man get murdered, and maybe that wasn't great. I haven't seen the actual notes. But so then so Vic is dead, and the paramedics are called in. And I have seen things been thrown out about the gum chewing paramedic that shows up. And he falls in the line of the always eating mortician. Like, it's not...
Just gonna say, I wanted him to be eating a sandwich, of course.
Fair enough, but he's not a mortician. He's a paramedic, so he's just chewing. When you're
chewing.
a mortician, you get a swallow, which sounds awful out of context.
Yeah. He graduates a sandwich if he's a mortician. Trade your gum in for a sandwich, kid.
Turn in your magic gum.
Yeah. So can we just talk about like this? This is like the origin story for the imposter Jason.
Yes, this is the inciting incident, as it were.
Again, applaud for something different, but do we want different? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like that's the thing. We're 5 movies into this thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain things people want to see. They try to go, okay, well, Jason's dead. How do we bring him back? How do we do something else with this?
Yeah.
And the concept of like, passing this on to Tommy or something else. That's interesting. But what they've done here is they've had Joey say out loud,
You know, Vic, before I came here, I never had anything to do, me being an orphan and all.
He gets axed in the back, and Roy, upon seeing this, loses his mind about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's
Roy the paramedic.
Like, you have established that they have no relationship, and then you're like, well, no, but the fact they had no relationship made him mad. And it's like, because it's so just wallpapered on at the end, it's kind of insulting. You're just like, wait, what?
You know, the breadcrumbs are there, but they're dumb.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know.
The first one, you at least
there's some close-ups of Roy,
right? Yeah, they're like looking concerned, and then, like I said, later there's a scene of him being like, "Are you talking to me?" Just to you can see his face. Like with the Pamela Voorhees thing, you see the camp counselors get murdered at the beginning. There's this talk of how cursed the camp is, and you find out about Jason drowning, or whatever, and then it all kind of ties together at the end that this is all what that's been about. This is just a red herring, and then just nope, it's this. Yeah, this is just out of left field and feels like it wasn't thought through, rather than a clever twist. But that might have been the cocaine.
The next bit is a couple of greasers on the side of the road stalled out, and again they just yell at each other.
Crap my ass!
I'm like, why do you guys hang out to each other?
We don't know who these guys are. We don't know where they're going. I like that they have some people have retconned them into being a gay couple. Absolutely. I love it.
Sure.
Why not? Like, they're dressed like Tom of Finland. Perfect. Yeah, there's these 2 T-birds are just arguing, and then one of them goes to take a crap in the woods.
Crap my ass!
Jason shows up, opens up a road flare, and shoves it in the guy's mouth. And the effect is really neat, where you can see the light in the thing. But this is definitely, I think, a tip-off that it's not Jason, is the cruelty of these. And they've gotten, the kills have gotten like increasingly crueler as we've gone on. Like in 4, Jason setting up the bodies, but even the corkscrew in the hand, chop kill.
In the hand.
But this is nothing compared to the strap kill later, but this is brutal.
The road flare. Yeah, again, I think this is a how do we get more inventive than like an impalement, and what can we do with makeup effects? Like you can see like the red light through the prosthetic face, and that's fun.
Yeah.
Weirdly, he says. Yeah. But yeah, the road flare is the memorable one here. Really. But again, like they just scream at each other for a while.
And then the other one comes back and then just like, keeps singing, and it's not so much of a tension like, oh God, when's it going to happen? It's just like, get to him, because you've abandoned the story for these 2 yahoos. Because I mean, even the people at the beginning of part 3, the couple, that's at least this. It's before anything else. Plot wise, it's like, well, so Jason can get some clothes. Thin, but fine, fair. Like there you go. But this is just like
the Terminator.
Yeah, these guys are here. I mean, even in part 4 with the hitchhiker, that is like a 2-minute scene, and this goes on for much longer and feels a lot longer.
Then we cut back to Tommy. He's flashing back to the murder of Jason in his head, and he starts to hallucinate that Jason is behind him. So are we doing the whole, like, is Tommy Jason? Is he just seeing him? It's not really that effective on either level, I don't think.
No, I mean, it just shows you he's haunted by him. Like that's it. And they don't really do much with that.
I guess this is what I was referencing earlier. All the kids have breakfast, and Tommy joins them and can barely communicate, and that's where he beats the crap out of some meathead.
Yeah, because the guy shows up in a mask and spooks him, and that does not go over well.
Our hero, I don't know. He just beats up this guy, and That's it.
Yeah.
Then we get a drifter who's looking for work. He goes by Elaine's house,
Ethel.
and then people just scream at each other for a number of minutes.
You big dildo. Eat your fucking slop.
Man, I'm just starting to get irritated at this point. Like, I just don't like it. I just don't like watching it.
Yeah, because it's not like we're spending time with anyone that's worth caring about. Because like as much as like you said before, it's like there's this interpersonal drama or whatever, but these are still characters interacting and doing things. This is just people yelling.
I have no empathy for them before they die at all.
These are cartoon characters that you're just like, and who's this drifter guy? Is the thinking like, oh, maybe he's the killer?
A red herring again. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's very difficult because you haven't established that. I mean, Jason has come back so much at this point. Like, this is the 5th movie.
Yes.
And so the idea that's like, is it him? No, it's Jason. It's either Jason or it's not. And if it's not Jason, who cares at this point? Because they haven't set up anything else. Because like, is it Tommy? I guess. I don't know. Are we just watching his brain dissolve? I don't know. I don't really care.
Granted, when I watched it this time, I knew, like, because I remembered. But at the same time, I can't remember how I felt when I was watching it initially. But I bet from scene to scene, you just kind of don't care.
Yeah.
And you're just waiting for the dip in the roller coaster again.
Right. Yeah.
And you don't put much thought into it. And you're just like, I'm here for a Jason movie.
No fault to the actors. They're trying. Like they're doing it.
And evidently Steinman was not exactly handing out direction at all for any of these people, especially our final girl. Like, just do it was his direction most of the time.
His direction during the sex scene was pretty vivid from what I understand.
Yeah, we'll get there. Then we get Billy.
Billy, who was the driver who dropped off Tommy to the halfway house. This reveal made me so happy because you see this awesome car pull up to this diner, does some donuts, skids out, and then the fucking Micro Machines guy leans out. Like this dude, he's got like a mustache, whatever. It's like your science teacher is just hauling ass, and right, it's that guy, and he's there to pick up his girlfriend Lana, and then but again, like this just hangs out forever with these two weirdos, not related to the story much at all. And he's while she's getting ready or closed up the restaurant, he's getting cocaine ready in the car because this movie was run on cocaine.
And the only bit notably here is that of the nudity, like she suggested it.
Yeah.
She suggested saying it's showtime.
And then revealing her boobs. What I think is hilarious is because she based it on all that jazz, which the whole thing is him doing that because he's like, all right, just hide all the pain and whatever, it's showtime. But she's like, what if I made that about boobs? And Danny Steinman went, perfect. Yes.
And Steinman was like, more nudity?
Yeah, perfect.
Put it in.
Yeah,
go for it. Yeah. He gets an axe to the head.
Yeah, and I rewound this.
This was a rough one.
Well, I rewound this a whole bunch because it was driving me nuts. And this is nitpicky.
Yeah.
But so the way that the scene goes is because he's like leaning out the window yelling at her, axe in the head. He knocks the cocaine off the driver's armrest thing, then close up to his eyes bulging out. And then like he dies. So it's just like that seems so. It should have been axe hit, eyes bulge, boom, fall.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it bothered me so much, but it's just like that's just a basic level of ineptness to me that I'm like that informs a lot of this movie. These aren't like that deep of movies, but it just like we're watching this woman who's just there just to take out her boobs and then die. We've had no introduction to like anything she has to do with anything. Even like Terry in the second one has more personality. She lost a dog. That's sad. Justice for Muffin.
Of course.
Like if this was a parody of slasher movies, that you would have this character.
Sure. And even Billy, like I didn't even remember him. It's just stab, go in this one. Yeah. Speaking of which, she comes running out all excited to see him, screams, gets hit in the stomach with an axe.
And boy, the Foley in this movie is something else. Oh my goodness. Just the same like thwack crunch sound for like anything like stab, axe, whatever. It's the same like
not as good as it should be.
Come on.
Then we get a little bit of old lore dump type of thing. They say that Jason's body was cremated. The mayor doesn't believe it when the cop says it's Jason. I would love to know what he has it to base on, that Jason's body was cremated, or like if we just know that part 6 is coming, that we just don't care.
The movie, like continuity wise, the movie's like, don't worry about it for so much of this anyway.
They say specifically that it was cremated.
Well, I mean, which makes total sense if you are trying to absolutely get away from Jason. If you're like, well, okay, he's dead. What can we do now with the same kind of formula? Let's really make sure that he's not coming back while he's cremated. And then they eventually went, well, no, he's not.
Yeah, it's not fun.
I'm thinking about how awesome it would be to, it's like, I saw 6 years ago, I don't really remember it, that 6 starts with these guys that have a capsule of ashes and they pour water on it like one of those tiny little dinosaur sponges, and it's Jason.
How cute. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I would, if they just went, this is dumb, but guess what? He's back, baby.
This is how we're doing it.
Be on board 100%.
Doesn't matter. Yeah. We get to the drifter that came by the at Ethel's house, and he's watching a couple have sex in the woods. And Jason does not approve of this, which means he gets stabbed.
Well, they're crackling double indemnity dialogue before the sex scene.
Eddie, we can't. That'll kill us.
Fuck him.
Fuck you.
Exactly. Fuck me.
Wink. Are you catching the innuendo that I'm dropping?
Yeah, gosh. This was, all around uncomfortable, especially knowing the actress her name is Deborah Voorhees. So let's remember this. She was called in because her last name was Voorhees.
They saw that on the sheet and went, perfect.
She said that she was uncomfortable, only because there was 50 people around during a film set during this. And then for the kill shot, she was blinded, basically. So she was being walked around naked in the woods, and again, if she's all for it, I'm all for it. But otherwise, my heart goes out to her for being in this scene.
But he has said, Danny Simon has said, some of the biggest cuts made to the movie were from the sex scene. He's like, I shot a fucking porno out there in the woods.
So her boyfriend gets up and says he has to go wash off in the woods after about 10 seconds or so, because evidently, the original cut was 3 to 10 minutes, and I know that's a big gap or something like that, but it got whittled down to 10 seconds, and that's another MPAA thing. You hide what you want in other things. So if you compromise and bring some things down, you can get extensions and other things, which I think is an interesting dance.
Which as an editor, I can tell you that that's a useful thing, but I don't think that was Danny Steinman's move. I think Danny Steinman's move was what? It's great. It's fucking.
Yeah. Let's just keep rolling.
I apologize to Joey Zito for, I made a last time about him being a complete horn dog. No, he's got nothing on Danny Steinman. Yeah, this one is a lot more, it feels a lot sleazier and a lot more exploitative about it. Just on his face, just being all right. It certainly feels like that's what he was going for.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then the kill scene is just so much more brutal to me. With the garden shears that are straight out of the burning, obviously, the shot itself. But not only the garden shears come down, but they clip, which I say it's brutal, but also if you're going to use garden shears, you go for it.
It's dedication.
Yeah. And so when the boyfriend finds her, it's again, I feel more uncomfortable watching it just because I watched her lay around naked in the woods for a long time. And then she's brutally attacked. And I like it less than when I like just the carnival ride on another person experience.
Well, and this, then when he shows up, the killer wraps a strap around his head, pulls him against the tree, and then tightens it until it basically just crushes his skull, which you could just axe him. He's right there. Just.
Yep. Creativity, baby.
And again, if it was Jason, it'd be okay, I'm tired of my, this, I've been doing this for days now. But this is, this was brutal. This was brutaler than I'm used to in a Jason movie, I guess. Because even the flare to the face is quick. It's brutal, but it's quick. This is a scene that goes on for a little bit.
Even though they tightened clockwise and counterclockwise on this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it was the 80s. Straps worked differently then.
Yeah, right. Yeah, then we move on from them, and this seems like just such a non sequitur at this point. But this is where Tommy and Reggie go to the trailer park where we meet his older brother.
Demon, Which would make sense to get him away from the house where there's more murders that are happening. But it feels again, this additional this is a scene that we've just slammed into this movie.
Yeah.
Which is maybe why I really like Reggie. Not only just that Shavar Ross is just enjoyable to watch, but that we know the most about him. He's there he's this young man that's at the halfway house with his grandpa. He really loves his brother. He gets to see his brother. Oh, cool. He gets to meet his brother. Now we're going to watch that happen. Oh, what's his brother up to? He's lived in a van eating enchiladas that he's cooked on the radiator or whatever.
Yeah. And you could go with that for a little while.
But it also, like, if the excuse is to get Tommy, out away, so the killings happen and maybe call into question whether it's him or not. Jason's there too. Why is Jason there? Why are the murderers happening there?
Why did he follow?
It's Tommy. Maybe it's Tommy. I guess I don't. It's just because that's so like flimsily established. I don't really think it's Tommy.
Yeah. So we also do have to establish Demon is from Return of the Living Dead.
Yes,
which is an absolute favorite of mine.
Yeah,
but
he's been in a bunch of stuff.
Poor Demon, man. Just him and his girlfriend serenading each other on the toilet.
Hey, baby. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby.
Hey, baby. Hey, baby.
Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby.
Oof, we're into a new territory here. It's classic.
But hats off to actors. Someone went, no, just sit on the toilet and sing, and they went, well, okay. And I couldn't do it. I probably would, and I sing on the toilet all the time. But someone asking me to do it, though, it's a different thing.
Yeah.
But just to be like, no, I want to make a name for myself. I want to have some dignity. All right, now you're a little pitchy. Can you do another take?
Take it down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, poor Demon. He notices stuff is going on outside. He opens the portalette door and finds her throat slashed. And then he gets scared and gets slashed on the toilet himself. And again, we just met these people. And I kind of wanted to know about Reggie and Demon, like, hanging out.
Yeah.
That's a story.
Just, again, missed opportunities that of like, oh my God, this might be interesting. Nope, it's not. Okay.
Yeah.
We're moving on.
Hard cut back to Cletus is motoring around on his motorcycle and his mom is screaming, and I just wrote, God, let this be over soon.
Yeah, because he's upset. He and Tommy he ran into Tommy at wherever it was they were, and Tommy ended up beating him up. It wasn't anything egregious. It was, I don't know. They got into a fight, and then so he's riding around crying, and eventually just gets decapitated by the killer, who's now over there wherever they are.
Yeah, he got back to the camp like real quick.
I mean, Jason bilocates no problem.
In one of the behind the scenes documentaries, it had the original form for the MPAA, and I paused it and looked at it for a little while because this kind of thing is so fascinating to me. But the head of Cletus could only bounce once.
That's so arbitrary. I love it.
If you had to bounce twice, rated X. But there were so many other things. And I always wonder, like, for filmmakers like this, of course they want all this stuff to get pushed through. It's got to be a badge of honor to come back with all these things. But then it's got to be a pain in the ass to just like go back and forth with them and be like, wow, it can only bounce once? Yeah. And then I have to remove it?
Yeah.
But that was one of my favorite ones.
Because it does seem so arbitrary. Like, what makes a second bounce worse? Like that, that's what I want to know. Because I totally understand, like, there's too much blood here. Like, this is great. I don't know. Yeah. Like, that's a lot of swearing. That's too much boobs. It's like, fine. But bounce once is very strange.
That was it.
Like, if there was a guidebook that was, that you could follow.
But that seems very that makes arbitrary. It so good for them. They can just arbitrarily decide what a rating is. Then we get the kids are watching a monster movie. As I always say, don't show a better movie in your own movie. From MST3K. This guy gets rejected and then he wanders around wanting attention a little bit. Cleaver to the head.
Yeah, like that. So because he goes up to Violet's room and his problem is apparently he stutters. That's why he's in the halfway house.
Vi, I'd like to talk to you.
Huh?
I need to talk to you.
Can you wait?
No.
But he goes up to Violet's room. He's like, can we talk about something? And she's dancing, listening to music, reading a magazine. He's like, can this wait? Fine. What was he going to talk about?
Yeah.
Like, what? We had a chance for character development. No, stop. Just gonna nip that in the bud.
Yeah.
Robin, who Jake, the starter, was trying to spit game on, goes back to her room and I guess feels bad about rejecting Jake because she gives a diatribe a little monologue to no one about rejecting him.
While taking off her shirt.
Of course, has to take off her shirt. And I couldn't help but think, like, when she gets into bed, because she of course, like, managed to pull the covers just right over her boobs, that there was some discussion about, there was like, can we get some more, like, glint off the nipple?
Yeah.
But,
right.
And then wakes up next to, much like Ned in the first one, where she turns and there's a dead body right there. Rather than being above her, it's right next to her. And then, guess what? Machete through the mattress, because Jason has always got to stab, whether you're Jason or not, you got to stab someone through something in a Friday the 13th movie.
He's always hiding underneath there. And like, it makes me, I don't want to think about it too much, but like, how much space is there for him to drive up through? Doesn't matter.
Yeah, Jason, he's not interested in your laws of time and space.
Exactly. Yeah.
But the Violet kill, I think my heart goes out to, just because, like, she's this halfway punk new wave person just doing, it's no Crispin Glover dance.
I did write in my notes, just not hurting anyone. In other Friday the 13th movies where Jason is slaughtering this person, we're like, okay, we have veered off the course at this point, even for Jason. But now, like you were saying earlier, like, why is Roy the medic slaughtering poor Violet? Here.
Yeah, Violet's doing nothing, just dancing awkwardly alone, which we've all done.
I'm doing that right now. Yeah.
But you got the moves though, kid. Yeah, it's almost like in the last one where Jason just goes in the shower and just fucks this dude up.
Yes.
And yeah, he just killed. Now, granted, it's not like, as far as Jason kills go, particularly in this movie, it's not that bad. But that's after some rewrites. Because initially, Danny Steinman said, what would be cool? What if Jason just stabbed her between the legs and pinned her up and pinned her to the wall? No, thank you. That's a little too on the nose for me, Danny Steinman.
Again, I like the sleazy movies sometimes, but that one, especially with Sherilyn Fenn, if that was supposed to be her, part of me is just like, no, don't do that to Audrey Horne. Don't do that to anyone.
It just feels like the and maybe I'm applying it after the fact after reading about Danny Steinman, but it just, man, that feels so gross. Like, that would feel just so, particularly because, like, for as much as it's talked about of Jason killing people because they have sex, whatever, the violence itself is usually not sexualized.
Yeah, and I think that would be the first time that it really introduces that.
Yeah, it'd be making the subtext text, and I'm not always a huge fan of that.
There's one behind the scenes photograph of her, like, probably getting a makeup test of the blood around there, and then she ends up just getting stabbed in the stomach. I love it, just stabbed in the stomach. But I'm just saying, like,
yeah, fine.
Gosh, I'm kind of glad we didn't go into that territory with this. After that, one of the kids does find all the bodies stacked in one room, which is like, we're starting to amp up at this point, which means that two of my favorite things are going to come up, and I will mention that briefly. But yeah, the stacked bodies in a room starts everything. And then Jason exploding through a doorway, which is how I want to enter every party that I go to from now on. I definitely, throughout this movie, I was not as into it, but I pumped my fist when Jason exploded through the doorway because I love that shit.
It doesn't, particularly with the reveal later, it doesn't make a lick of sense while it happens.
That's very
always
true.
Great.
I didn't think about that. Yeah. This is definitely getting into the minutia that may or may not worth it, but we're doing it. Roy, the medic, knows that Jason bursts through doorways like that, acts like Jason throughout the entire time. And I don't mean just like acts in a story way, but also the performer acts like Jason, which is like, if we go one level deeper on that, that's kind of interesting to me. Because of course, to the director, he needed to maintain a performance to maintain the audience. But then also he had to do like Jason-like things like bursting through the doorway, which is best, and then just in 2 seconds throwing a body through the window, which is my other favorite thing.
Jason loves throwing bodies through windows.
It's every movie. And how does Roy know this? Doesn't matter. Again, I'm just thinking about it. Going backwards, really.
Well, that was actually a moment where I had to stop and go, wait, who was that? Who did he just throw through the window? Because I totally forgot about that character. It's Reggie the Ruckus's grandpa that works there.
Yeah.
But I was like, who is? Oh, okay. Because it's just it's one of the nondescript characters in this movie. But yeah, even later, because this was something that was bothering me on subsequent viewings of this, where it's like Roy is when they get into the final clash or whatever, and she does some damage to him. At no point does it go like, does he realize he's about to die and be like, oh no, I better like try to figure out how to get out of this? Because Jason, it seems like Jason just doesn't. Either it's either he's never been struggled with before, or he just doesn't have a concept of death, or for whatever reason. But like, I'm just going to keep going and doing this. But Roy's a person. It's pretty well established that Jason is something else at this point.
I was just going to say that. Like, why didn't Roy just go, ow, man?
You know what? Like, yeah, it was me. It was Roy. Hi. Don't kill me. I'll just go to jail.
Things are ramping up now, and we get into the barn with a chainsaw. This is some stuff that, I guess, did we skip her getting chased through the woods and all that?
I mean, it basically just happens like right from them, because Pam and Reggie come back from seeing Demon and Tommy, and then, they find the bodies, and then, she runs through the forest, losing her pink sweater on and off again.
Exactly, on and off, yeah. And the actress did say that was the best she felt she looked, with a wet white shirt draped over her.
Well, I was going to say, what kills me about this is, Jason chases them into the barn. Reggie climbs up into the loft, and she gets a chainsaw, and they're fighting. And by cutting to Reggie going like, get him, it's like, no, I'm not scared at all now. Like, this is now a children's movie where I'm sure everyone's going to be fine. Like it drains all that tension from the scene. If you switch it up and like he killed her and then came after Reggie, oh my gosh.
Yep.
But I would have given you credit for that, but it absolutely felt like that was not going to happen. It felt everything was very safe, and it's gonna be fun.
And when she grabs the chainsaw, and I don't want to make fun of her performance, but she just does not look confident at all with that thing. And she did say that like the first few takes, she started just laughing the entire time, because she was just saying like, when else am I going to be wielding a chainsaw in a barn like this? Which, I mean, that's why we're laughing too, because that kind of stuff's awesome. But she doesn't have what some of the other final girls had in these films. And, of course, I wish her the best. But at the same time, I'm just like, she didn't have the drive. She was just like, oh, I guess you were done. Or like, you were the last one. It was like arbitrary.
Yeah, because she's kind of like Trish. She's barely been in the movie. But with Trish, there was like, I mean, I don't want to say like that there was more of a sense of loss, because we've seen that like the doctor gets killed off screen. It's one of the so like everyone's dead, and so that's happening. But it doesn't have the same way. It doesn't feel like this person is pushed to their limit the way that it has in other movies. Where like Ginny does it in a much more in 2, much more sort of cerebral, like I'm going to use my psychology or whatever. But it just seems so abrupt what's happening now, where it's like, oh, now I'm after you. Well, I guess I'm going to stand up to you. And it doesn't have that, this is my stand after all this. It's just, I guess I'm going to try this. Yeah.
Haven't we been trying to make this Tommy's story?
That's the thing.
And then he shows up, and I had forgotten about him, truly.
I don't know if the idea was that like, we're still trying to play that maybe this is Tommy.
Oh, sure.
It just feels awkward because we haven't really like that wrestling hasn't been done. And like even a moment where like there's some more doubt, have other characters like cast doubt on him, but there's not time for that really. We're too busy spending time with people yelling at each other.
You big dildo.
Yeah. Ugh.
Before all this stuff happens, Reggie attacks Jason with a tractor. Like a
big, geez, how did we forget that?
Because this movie sucks. Because when she's being chased, Roy/Jason has the upper hand, and then you hear a noise, and it's Reggie driving this tractor like right into him. And that looks like it would have hurt, but Tom Morga absolutely just gladly did it.
Man, stunt people are just incredible. Like,
obviously there are stunt coordinators or whatever, but like, you are literally putting your body on the line for this stuff. And if you're Tom Morga, you are having a great time doing it. And you're like, hurt me more.
Right. I do want to know how many takes that took, actually. So yeah, we're back to, Tommy shows up. They sort of face each other off. They do the whole dolly back zoom in effect that I always notice in every movie. I still think it's really effective. I don't care.
I love that trick. Yeah.
It's disorienting. It works. You can only do it once for film. Tommy gets hacked. He goes down and manages to get in a shot with his trusty pocket knife.
Yes.
while he's on the ground. I have forgotten or not cared that this isn't Jason, but I'm like, oh, a little dinky pocket knife goes into Jason's ankle and whatever.
Yeah.
But you do see Jason's eye in this one, and I do feel like they like close up on his eye a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you do see the blue hockey mask a little bit.
Yeah, because that's the big tell is that the hockey mask has blue triangles kind of pointing down and out the red one. Okay. I mean, like that's yes, absolutely. But also the tell was that this is dumb and I hate it.
That's also true. Yeah.
But I do like the moment when they're fighting, because apparently there's outside the barn, there's a bed of spikes, because that's what you just have.
I was going to say, I grew up in the Midwest, but I don't remember beds of spikes outside of barns.
Yeah, Jason grabs Reggie by the leg, and then when Tommy hacks the hand, I like that effect. That's a pretty brutal looking thing. Yeah. And then eventually, then Tommy falls to the ground, which I like the reveal at watching that documentary that there's two different stuntmen. This part of the fall is Tom Morgan, this part of the fall is me. That's it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But those two stuntmen can say, I played Jason, or the imposter Jason, as they keep calling him. Yeah, this is where we finally get the reveal of it's not Jason. Mm-hmm. And it took me a second even just to like, oh, it's that guy.
I didn't figure it out until they told me. Because I was like, I have no idea who that is.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, because I thought it was going to be the doctor. But then when he got, because we saw him like die off screen, and I'm like, what if that was like a fake thing or something?
Sure.
I don't know, but no. I had no idea who that was.
Yeah, and it just, gosh, from here on out, it just gets into the whole like dream sequence bullshit that Friday the 13th movies have to do.
Yeah.
And, I just wrote down, cop looks through his search history, Roy's search history, which is just like a bunch of clippings that he carries in his wallet.
The kid who was axed to death at the woodpile was Roy's son. God only knows why Roy kept it hidden all these years, but he did.
I found these, and they're all clips of Jason. And my favorite one is the one about Jason that's got his picture. Like,
yes, I was like
a senior yearbook photo. Have a great summer.
Yeah, it's not quite a mugshot necessarily, but it's still just like this like stupid like photo.
Thing, like, oh, celebrities, they're just like us. Pulled it out of Us Weekly.
Tommy's in the hospital. She goes to see him at the end, and like you just know the dream sequence is going to come on here. And evidently, the actor who plays Tommy like wrote this ending, and he gave himself like 3 pages of dialogue.
Yeah,
and the director Neiman was just like, we just need you to react. There's no monologues to be had at the end of this film.
Yeah, but this for as much as you might get an idealized cocaine version of the 80s of like the like, oh, look like the crazy decor and like it's all Scarface, whatever. Like, this is the reality of cocaine. It's people go like, that's a great idea. Let's do that.
Yeah,
and it's not at all.
That idea on the day after they've already had a set and all that kind of stuff. Could you imagine just being a part of the production team, just being like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like we got to redo everything now for today.
Danny had some inspiration. Yeah, because then he has this dream of stabbing her, and then, oh, no, that was a dream. And then he sees Jason at the end of his bed and then concentrates real hard, and Jason disappears. Now, I can't tell if that's some Dr. Sleep bullshit of him just being like, well, I thought about it and I'm not troubled by it anymore.
Yeah.
Or I guess it's him becoming Jason. It's not even ambiguous in that I'm not sure what happened. Oh, I guess it was Jason entering his body, whatever. It just is, okay, there's Jason, and now he's gone now. Okay. It didn't make me wonder. It made me question.
Yeah. I mean, all these movies have to end kind of like that with these dream sequence type of, it leaves them open to do whatever they want, of course. Yeah. But
and then the reality, when it comes back to reality, rather than being like, oh, he's okay, turns out he has the Jason mask and then pops up behind Pam, raises a knife, zooms in on his eye. Who knows what happens? Oh, I guess Tommy's the killer now.
So yeah, let's go to the memorial for the highest body count in all of these films.
Oh, really? This is the peak?
So far.
Okay.
This is the peak so far. So we'll go to that right now. Joey, played by Dominic Brassia, hacked apart with an axe. Vinny, played by Anthony Baril, road flare to the mouth. Pete, played by Corey Parker, throat slashed with a machete. Billy, played by Bob DeSimone, head struck with an axe. Lana, played by Rebecca Wood, chest struck with an axe. Raymond, played by Sonny Shields, stomach stabbed with a knife. Tina, played by Deborah Voorhees, eyes gouged with garden shears. Eddie, played by John Robert Dixon, head crushed with a leather strap. Anita, played by Jerry Fields, throat slashed with a machete. Demon, played by Miguel A. Nunez Jr., back impaled with a metal spike. Junior Hubbard, played by Ron Sloan, decapitated with a cleaver. Ethel Hubbard, played by Carol Lassetel, face struck with a cleaver. Jake, played by Jerry Pavlon, face struck with a cleaver. Whew. Robin, played by Juliette Cummins, back impaled with a machete. Violet, played by Tiffany Helm, stomach stabbed with a machete. Duke, played by Casey Swaim, throat slabbed with a machete. Dr. Matthew Letter, played by Richard Young, head impaled with a spike. George, played by Vernon Washington, eyes gouged with a machete. Roy Burns, played by Dick Wind, impaled by tractor harrows.
That's a lot of bodies.
Yeah, that's a lot of people. I should have checked. You know what? Since next week is 6, that'll put us smack dab in the middle. So I'll go back and re-listen to the old recordings to see what our bets were and see how we were for the total body count for the entire series. Is.
This certainly, this jacked it up. I mean, I'm starting to wonder now if I might have been way over. I don't know. I mean, there's plenty of movies to go, but I mean, this rung up some numbers.
It did. Yes. And by people we don't care about. Yeah. At the end of this, I can't imagine what it was like to be in the theater and just be like, well, it wasn't Jason. Why do I keep coming to these? I was having fun. But the key is that this made like $8 or $9 million in the opening weekend, which I didn't look up what the budget is for this, but it had to have been only like 2 or 3.
Yeah, it couldn't have been much.
So your profits are already made. So it does not matter what the audience thinks on your opening weekend, whether it's a success or not based on your previous film.
Yeah, we'll tell that to the filmmakers behind Morbius. Those brave souls behind Morbius, that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so this was a success again.
Less so, but it still made the money, and that's still enough for them to want to pursue it. Yeah. But it is interesting, that by this point, so many other slasher films have come out, and this is like you've wrung this out so much that you're trying to take it in new directions that it's just not happening. And so as we see in the next one, they went, well, I think the missing thing is Jason, but this was a neat idea. This is a neat attempt at departure. It was just executed so poorly. And I feel like I got in trouble for watching a slasher movie. And so I got taken out behind the shed and forced to just watch kills. They sucked all the fun out of it. For as goofy as some of these things are, it's still just like, I was wrong when I said the ride over hills and valleys. They took out that part of it. It's just a circle, and you just go around a different person being stabbed each time. It's a merry-go-round of just stabbing.
Well, good thing you have 7 more of these to watch.
Good God. Oh, my God.
That was 5. There's 7 more, John.
Oh, boy. All right. Okay. I refuse to let myself admit that it's all downhill from here. I'm gonna hope. I know that by reputation, Jason Takes Manhattan is not great.
That's correct.
I have heard in my sort of like just osmosis of pop culture, like I feel like I hear this one get denigrated more, but that might just be because it's a fake Jason. But we'll see.
This one's definitely an nadir for me. Yeah. And out of the 7 more, I can think of like 3 that I actually legitimately like. So there's at least that. So, but again, this is what we are doing. We are experiencing this pain, the up and down. Like, how is this changing? And this one changed quite a lot, and it hurt a bit.
Yeah, which is it's just funny to go back to we continually talk about Ebert and Siskel's reviews of these things. And this is the first one that I'm like, that stuff you said before, yes, but for this, that was nothing. That was see how wrong you were. This is what it could be.
Totally, yeah.
But I am curious to check out that movie I mentioned earlier, the Don't Go in the Basement. I didn't get a chance to watch that.
Now.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch that before this recording to see. Because I have a feeling that's probably like the Bay of Blood thing, fairly loose. But I'm still curious.
Of course, yeah. All right, well, that is part 5, and I hope you will keep joining us for this. We're only halfway through, like we were saying. So next week we will be to Friday the 13th, part 6. Jason Lives.
Jason Lives.
That's a way of just saying we're not messing around anymore.
Yeah.
Jason's back.
Okay. All right. Our bad.
Yeah.
Jason's back.
Our bad. Jason Lives.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Good night. This has been a Two Penguins media production. It was produced by James Strayer and edited by John C. Myers. Logo by Ethan Kimberling and music by Michael Arthur Holloway, who you can find on Bandcamp. Follow us on Instagram at thismayhurtabitpod and on Twitter at hurtabit. Email us at thismayhurtabit@gmail.com. And if you are so inclined, rate and review us on your favorite podcast app, and we'll see you next time.